So you signed for Nottingham on the 9th of September, which is quite late. So can you get into how that opportunity came around for you?
Yeah, so, obviously I played over here for a long time, in the American League and the NHL throughout, I think it was 14 years over here. And obviously with the age I was getting to, and with the age group that is in the American League now, where you have a vet rule and it's more of a development league, and I was fortunate enough to play up and down as long as I did. Kind of blessed to do that. But with the age I was getting to, even an American League deal was kind of out of the question over here. I mean, you're taking a spot from a young prospect, even though you be in a mentorship role and a leadership role. I mean, there's only so many guys that can do it, and guys that are younger than me that could probably fill the void and play more in the lineup and have more of an effect than I would, which was fine because to play as long as I did over here, it's you're in the small percentage of guys that are able to do it. So I was grateful to do that. I was skating with Brad Moran in the summertime here because he's from Calgary, and he would skate with us in the summer times. And he mentioned it. He's like, would you be interested in coming over and playing for the team I'm playing for in England? I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I don't know. Great. And then Corey ended up calling me maybe because Mo, when he asked me that, he skated with us maybe another week and then he left. I said, yeah, man, just mention it to your team or your GM or your coach or whatever. Get them to call me. I'd be open to it. And then Corey called me. We talked maybe a handful of times over a course of a week. Brought it up, obviously, with Michelle at the time. And, just said, let's go and do it. And the guys that I've played with over the course of my career have always said, if you ever get the chance to go over and play in Europe, do it, because it's a lot of fun. The life experience is great. Get to live in another country, play a different style of hockey, you'll play in different countries if your team makes tournaments and stuff like that. And it'll be something you'll remember forever. And it has been. I'm so glad that I did that, because it kind of capped off a long career, an up and down career. And it's something I'll remember forever. So I'm glad I did it. I've made a lot of good friends over there that I still talk to. It's amazing that as long as I've played over here, the amount of guys that I still talk to on that Nottingham team, we're in a group chat still. I think it's 4 years later that I still talk to half the team. So that just goes to show you the type of guys that I was lucky enough to play with over there.
And that's what, when I spoke to Jeff Brown, he said he's never experienced a team that was so close as that 2016, 2017 team became.
Yeah, I mean, like I just said, I mean, there's teams I played with over here. I might talk to, I talked to a handful of guys over the course of a 14-year career. I talked to 10 or 12 guys from that team still 4 years later. And I mean, some of the funniest guys I have ever played with. I think that's what made the year so much fun. I mean, we didn't really do anything in the league per se. I mean, but that's sports, right? You're not going to win all the time, but to have a chance to play in a team that won a pretty significant trophy for that league, that kind of put that league on the map, was a really big accomplishment. I think it was a big accomplishment for the team, the players, the management, the city, and to be the first team to do it, because the second team that does it, who cares? Right? That league is it's becoming a very good hockey league, and it's great to see, because I think the fan bases deserve it. The country deserves it. The national players that play for the national team deserve to be recognized for how good of hockey players they are. And when that Great Britain team stayed up in the World Championships, I mean, to get high fives from the Canadian players and the U.S. players, I mean, those guys are the best in the world, and to be recognized by them for what they did to stay up with the big boys, I mean, that just goes to show you how far the sport has come, I would say, in the last handful of years in that country.
You mentioned how funny your teammates were and things, and we'll get into those a little bit later. I'm sure people are going to look forward to hearing you talk about Robert Farmer and people like that. Yeah. But what I want to ask you about first is, you were following Cam Janssen in coming to Nottingham. So did you reach out to him at all to find out what his experience over here was like?
I did talk to Cam. It's funny because we've had an interesting start to our friendship because we've probably fought each other 20 times over the course of playing junior in the minors in the NHL. And I love Cam. He's a great guy. He's full of energy. And Cam did reach out to me about playing there. We talked a couple times. He said, "You're going to love it." You know, best ranked, best fans in the league. And it is. You know, when you're playing in front of a sold out crowd, you know, 90% of the year, you know, it's amazing. I mean, that rink is great. And then to play in those European Cup tournaments, the amount of fans that travel to watch us play, I mean, it doesn't get any cooler than that.
You get told about the rink and the arena by people, but there's nothing like experiencing it for yourself because they're trying to get you to come here. They could be telling you anything. So when you get to Nottingham, you finally see the arena for the first time. What were your thoughts when you got to look around it?
It was great. I mean, you know, the arena is perfect for the size. I mean, when you have, I think what's that, 7,000-ish, but they're right over top of you the whole time. It's loud all the time. I mean, Sheffield think they have like the greatest fans and the biggest rink, but they only play in that rink when they play us in Cardiff. They play at a rink that holds 200 people when they play other fans. So those aren't real fans to me. When you can't fill an arena your whole season because you don't play big teams. We'll play Dundee on a Wednesday night and we'll have a sold out crowd. Those are real fans. Pretender fans are the ones where you only play big rivals because you can't fill a rink. When they play Dundee and the smaller teams, they can't even fill a rink the size that fills 200 people. So those aren't fans to me. You know, I mean, those are I mean, they're jokers, right? So, I mean, it was great to play in front of passionate fans all year long that support the team, that bleed that team. I mean, and it was great.
And then I don't think I've ever seen in my time watching the Panthers someone buy in as quickly to the Panthers-Steelers rivalry as Brian McGrattan did. I think you made your debut against Sheffield as well.
I did too, yeah. And you know what? I wish I could have maybe played a little better or whatever, but I was dying in that game because I flew in. I landed on a Friday afternoon after flying, you know, basically for a whole day from Calgary. Landed at Gatwick. My flight was late. Whatever that highway is that circles London, is it the M25?
I think so, yeah.
Bank holiday weekend. Land at 1, and it took about 7.5 hours because of the traffic to get to Nottingham. Go to bed that night, severely jet lagged, playing Coventry the next afternoon, half dead. Or no, sorry, played in Nottingham that next night, like half dead against Sheffield, and then the next afternoon and Coventry. Like I was dying.
And that's a bit
like
of
4 days, like no sleep, and played 2 games.
And that's 2 games in 2 very different rinks because you play one in Nottingham and you go to Coventry. That might be a bit of a culture shock after what you experienced the first night.
Yeah, Coventry, like that rink's a dump, but you know what? They got good fans there, man. It's loud. Every time we played there, because that's a bit of a rivalry too. Yeah, you know, you have your Steelers and the Panthers, but Coventry's not too far down the road. I mean, that rink's brutal, but the fans there are great. It was always loud when we played there. And there's like 4 or 5 of them that sit behind the bench that chirp all game, and I love that shit, right? You know, they're chirping everybody. They're chirping Corey, they're chirping me, they're like chirping the trainers and stuff. So it was great. I mean, that was a fun matchup for me too, was the Coventry one too. Yeah.
Because they had, I think it was Garrett Klotz in the lab. I remember speaking to Cam on it, and he was saying that he felt a bit guilty because after he came, all the heavyweights started to come into the Elite League.
Yeah, all the guys, Patrick Bordelot, who I fought in the NHL a couple times. But every team kind of had a guy or two when I came over there, and I was like, yeah, I'll go to England, have a good time. And I love doing it. And I'm like, maybe I'll fight a couple times, get the fans going. But then I came over there and every team had a guy. I'm like, holy shit, I got to get stuff together here. Yeah.
So I think one of the most notable fights you had early on was the one against Manchester, against Eric Nielsen, where you kind of did like, because Cam's fights were like quite spontaneous, whereas yours are quite a bit more theatrical, aren't they? Where you take the gloves off, you circle each other. It's that gladiator mindset sort of thing.
And you know what, Eric Nielsen, tough guy. I mean, played in the American League a long time and has fought a lot of very tough guys and has done very well. Like he had a very respectful name over here, and you know, it was a guy you can't take lightly. Warrior, good guy, and you know, to fight a guy like that my first time in Nottingham, it was great. I mean, it was a good fight, and to kind of get the fans going and kind of see what I can do a little bit. Yeah, it was great.
And you got the McGrattan salute, as I think Eddie called it on the commentary as well.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You got to get those in. And it's obvious you enjoyed playing in Coventry. Were there any other rinks that you enjoyed going to play in?
I love Cardiff. I think Cardiff has a great rink. I like playing it, as like I said, as much as Coventry is a dump, I like playing there. I love playing in Sheffield, just because of the rivalry, and it was packed. Like they fit. Their rink is bigger, right? But you know, our fans were a lot louder than theirs, and they had a lot more than ours. So that just goes to show you, right? Fair weather fans. But I like playing in Sheffield just because of the rivalry. That Belfast rink's a great rink. That's a great rink. Great city too. Yeah, you know what? All the rinks are good over there, minus Edinburgh. Like that is probably one of the worst places I've ever been. I didn't know like their boards were just plastic over cement.
Ooh.
And I was going to run a guy like there. I was going to crush him. And I'm like, this is going to hurt me 10 times more than him. And I sloughed off the hit because I'm like, I might die here. But other than that Edinburgh rink, all the rinks are great. Great fans. You know, Bray had one of the smallest dressing rooms I've ever been in. It was like a shoebox. Like we're basically getting dressed on each other. But, I mean, they have a great rink. Great fans, drums, and those Scottish people are a little crazy. But yeah, all the rinks are good. All the fan bases are good. It's cool how all the fans travel to support their team and they get their own section. And, you know, it's a little different than how it is over here, but it's pretty cool. I mean, like, you know, you get teams, you know, when the team comes from Fife and Dundee and Belfast, like, they got their own section and they fill it. I mean, it's pretty cool to see the fans support their teams like that and travel all over the UK to come watch the guys play.
And did you enjoy traveling up and down the country? Like, I know coach rides are what they are, but you get to see all the different places. Like if you drive up to Scotland, you get to see all the sites.
Yeah, and like I've never been to Scotland before. I mean, and it's not a long ride. Like it's a 6-hour ride. Like I played in the minors. I played in junior over here, where you're banging out 8-hour bus rides and playing 3 and 3s. You know, to get to bus to these places, go to like places like Cardiff and Belfast and the Scottish teams.
You gotta love having dogs.
I'm just waiting for that to happen. I got 3 upstairs with Gabe.
I imagine they didn't set them off.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, getting to travel all over the UK and play and, you know, have some downtime to go to different places. I mean, to go to London and we went to York for Christmas. I mean, it was like super cool. Michelle has her dad is from Liverpool, so her cousins lived in Liverpool. We did like day trips to Liverpool. You know, I'm a big United fan, so I went to 3 or 4 United games. You know, I got to do a lot of stuff that I really wanted to do in the UK over the time I was there, and it was awesome.
And then speaking of travel, you also got to do, like you mentioned before, you got to go into Europe and play in some really interesting places, like in Jaca in Spain.
Yeah, so that first Jaca trip, and that was when I first got there because we played, you know, I got there, and I literally think it was the second or third weekend I was there. I think it was right in the beginning or mid-October that we played in Jaca. So, you know, and Corey said, you know, we're going to be going to Spain to play hockey. I was like, well, Spain? You know, we flew into Barcelona and made a 4-hour drive into the Pyrenees Mountains, and that rink was one of the coolest rinks I've ever played in. And then a moment that I'll probably never forget in my life. So we're playing the Jaca team. And it's 0-0. You know, I'm playing with Alex Nikiforuk, who's a longtime pro, very good hockey player, played in a lot of top leagues in Europe. I'm like, you know, we get to play with Nicky this tournament. Probably pretty good. Probably get a couple points because he's a really good playmaker. And Peter Callis Sure enough, we're in the defensive zone. Nicky loses the draw clean. D to D pass. Their D floats one from the point. I don't know what the hell Mika was doing. 5-hole. My first shift in that tournament against a team from Spain, I was -1. And it's like, I tell Nicky all the time, it's the biggest low light of my career, and you caused it because you could not win a draw against a Spanish guy from Haka. And then Mika, I don't know what the hell he was doing, just let a floater in from the point. So, that's part that stings of being a Panther, and Alex Nikiforuk was the cause of it. But anyways, we ended up winning that tournament and moving on to play in the next one. Which was super cool, man. I mean, then we got to go, I think it was in Denmark in Odense. And we didn't lose a game the entire time. We didn't lose a game the entire tournament. I think we went to overtime once against a team from
the Kazakhstan team in the final. We went to
the Kazakhstan team. We went to, if we would have won in regulation, we would have won the tournament right there, but I think we won in a shootout or an overtime.
Yeah, that's the game where Larry destroyed their goalie.
Killed them. I've never seen anything like it with no call. I have never seen anything like that in my entire life playing this game. The loon goes full tilt and wipes their goalie out at the top of the circles and no call. And the guy was half dead on the ice. And then we ended up, I mean, it wasn't we would have won anyway. But the no call was like, I couldn't believe it. Like, he killed that guy, and I've never seen anything like it. And he gets up, like, pretending that he had to protect himself because the goalie was coming at him. But, I mean, and then to go to, was it Bolzano? No, it was in Ritten. So I think we went into Bolzano and then drove up to Ritten. And then to play there and win there, and then to have a European trophy and be the first team from the UK to do it. I mean, it was a lot of fun. Those tournaments were a lot of fun. Obviously, when you travel with the boys and you go on those 4 or 5 day trips and spend time in different countries and the team bonding and the funny stuff. I mean, those are things that I'll never forget. And Alex Nikiforuk, low light of my career in Haka, Spain, my first shift. Thanks, Nicky.
You also get to win that final. That place in Ritten was picturesque in the mountains with all the snow and everything like that.
Oh, it was deadly. I mean, and then walking to the rink every day because we stayed up one of the little villages up the street. And I mean, to walk and grab a coffee in the morning and walk to the rink, and they had the large speed skating track around the outside of the rink. So you got to see all the speed skaters training. I think they're probably doing high altitude training up there, which is pretty cool to watch those guys train and do that on the outside of the rink. Yeah, I mean, that's the coolest part of getting the chance to play in those European Cup tournaments, because you get to go to cities and towns that you think you would never be able to go to and play hockey in a sport and have a chance to win and do something. I mean, it was awesome.
And obviously it was great for the Panthers. It was great for the league, but that was the first professional championship you won. You won the OHL championship in your first year as a junior. So what did it mean to you to win a professional championship like that?
Yeah, I mean, made it to the Stanley Cup final with Ottawa, but we lost to Anaheim. I mean, it's hard to win. I mean, no matter what league you're in. Like, I played a long time, and I've had friends that have played a long time that haven't even got a sniff at any kind of championship. And it's super cool. It's something I'll always remember, to have those pictures with the guys and that big plate and all that stuff, and the memories of winning it, coming back to Nottingham and having that town square packed and coming out and showing it. I mean, those are things the guys will remember all the time for forever. Right.
I mean, you got the civic reception in the town. I think you all went to the Forest as well and took the trophy around at halftime. So there's a lot that came with that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And was it hard to switch between that and domestic competition? Because that's something that a lot of teams have struggled with in the Elite League.
Yeah, I mean to go back and forth. I mean, because you're going to have a condensed schedule. I mean, and there's a lot of good teams in that league, man. So I mean, there's not a lot of parity in that league. I mean, you're going to get the couple bottom teams that they suck, but the other teams are good. Like Cardiff and Belfast, and I hate to say it, but Sheffield is good. Coventry was good. Those are hard games to play, man. When you just say you have a big game against Sheffield or Belfast or Cardiff on a Saturday night, man, you got to drive into one of those places. You drive into Coventry and play a 4:00 game, or you drive into Cardiff and you play a 4:00 game. Like, I mean, to get 4 points out of those weekends, it's hard to do. And that's what you have to do to win that league. And it's hard, and it's a grind. I mean, we don't get a lot of – I mean, you're going to get your Monday or your Monday, Tuesdays off, but, you know, you're going to be playing Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday every week. And there's a lot of very good teams in that league. And I think the fans have to understand that you can't win it all the time. And you might go through a 6-7 year spell where you might not win. But there's some very good hockey teams over there. And I think, you know, Cardiff, from what I've seen, has kind of set the tone on how you have to build a team. They've been the most consistent team, I think, since I've been there. They've been the top team every year. I think Belfast squeaked them out last year. I mean, they didn't really get finished this year, which is kind of sucks. But Adam Keefe has done a great job. Adam Keefe is a longtime guy over here. I've known him for a long time. I grew up playing against his brother when we were kids, so I've known them a long time. I think Adam Keefe has done a hell of a job in building a culture and team in Belfast. Same as in Cardiff. I think those two teams have set the league on how you have to build, set the tone on how you have to build your team for that league. And if the other teams don't follow suit, they won't be able to keep up with those two teams.
And did the standard of the Elite League surprise you all?
It did, actually. You know, I wasn't coming over there and being a hero and thinking I'm going to light this league up and all that. I was just coming over there to come over and being very humble and open to playing in a new league with new guys. And the only guy I knew on the team was Brad Moran because he's from Calgary. We skated for a long time over here and together. And I was just coming over to enjoy it and have a good time and play a different style of hockey. But when I got there, you know what? There's some very, very good hockey, especially the domestic players. The guys that you wouldn't, you know, you're thinking you're playing with guys that are from the UK and England, and there's actually hockey over here, and they can train, and they played as long as I have, but they have. And shockingly, how good the guys on the domestic players were actually. I think Farms is the best one by far. I mean, might be a little biased, but I think Farms is the best one. I get to play with him for probably the second half of the season. If I played with him for the first half, I've probably been over a point a game. So.
And what was it about Robert Farmer that you clicked with on the ice?
He's the best, man. He's probably one of the funniest guys I've ever played with. I mean, great teammate, great person. He's hilarious. Just a goofy English bastard that I laughed at every single morning. He sat 3 stalls down from me. I'd walk in the room and just start laughing at him. I mean, we hit it off right away. And he hit it off with everybody on that team. Everybody got along. That was one of the only teams I've ever played with where the entire team got along together and hung out together and did stuff together. And everybody was like that. I mean, I think that's why that year stood out to me the most, was just the quality of people and the guys that I got to meet and play with on that team.
And you also got quite close to Jeff Brown as well, didn't you?
Yeah, Brownie. Brownie's great. So, I talk to Brownie all the time. We grew up, and he's a little bit younger than me, but we're from the same area back home, and we still talk, all the time. And Clarkie. Goddamn, Liverpool won this year. I have not heard the end of it. Haven't heard nothing from Greener because Spurs suck. They are brutal. They suck. Good luck with Mourinho. Greener was really quiet this year. The mighty Farms and Leeds going up, it's been nonstop between him and Clarkie. With those two teams, I just can't take anymore. And United have sucked. I mean, we got into Champs League. I mean, with a very marginal, brutal team. If it wasn't for Bruno Fernandes, we would not have got there. But we're in Champions League next year, so hopefully we can draw and attract some new players. But between Clarkie and Farms, with those two teams, they just haven't shut up in months, and I can't take it anymore. But Greener's been quiet, so it's been really good.
Speaking of Clarkie, just talk about what he means to that locker room, because he is Mr. Nottingham Panthers.
He is, and I think he's Mr. UK for hockey. I mean, you have Tony Hand, who kind of was the first generational player to come over from the UK, but for such a natural goal scorer that Clarkie was. I mean, the guy scored 30 goals every year for how long? Great person, great teammate. I mean, he is probably arguably the best Panther of all time. Maybe the best player to ever play for their national team. A big reason why that team is where they are right now is because of people like David Clark that set the tone on respect, humility, leadership, teammate, to be how proud he would wear those jerseys, and guys follow suit in that. And the UK, the hockey program in the UK is in a place because of people like him. And I'm glad to call him a friend. We still talk all the time, even though he's a painful Liverpool supporter, but we do talk all the time still. And I'm glad I've made friends over there like that. And once this pandemic ends, I can't wait to come back over and hang out with some of those guys. It's definitely on my to-do list to come back over to Nottingham and hang out there maybe for a week or 10 days and hang out with the friends that I made there.
And have you ever seen a guy like Clarkey before who hasn't got an inch of body fat on him at all?
No, yeah, I know. I hate guys like that, right? They can eat whatever they want and do whatever they want. And yeah, I mean, but that's he takes care of himself, works out, trains hard. I mean, naturally fit. I just wish we could all be like that.
Well, he's been retired for 2 years now, and he looks like he could still play tomorrow if you asked him.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you find having the league as the priority? Because obviously when you come from North America, it's a very playoff-orientated mindset.
Yeah, like in North America, obviously, you care about winning, but, the league per se, we don't count the league as winning the regular season because, to be honest, it doesn't mean anything. The winning is the grind of the playoffs and 7-game series and playing for another 2.5 months after the regular season wins, after the regular season ends to play for a championship. And, our season is, kind of aimed at make the playoffs. Anybody that gets in can win. The President's Trophy is so hard to win, and nobody, I wouldn't say doesn't care about winning it, but it's not a priority. If we finish first in the league, it's not. Grind out the season, get into the best playoff spot you can, and then we go to war to try and win the next 2.5 months and, survival of the fittest to win the Stanley Cup. So it was a little bit different mindset to go over there and have that as the top priority because, if you lose 4 or 5 games in a row, man, you can put yourself right. Each season could be right out of it, and it's obviously it's same. It's kind of the same thing too, right? You're battling all year to win that league, and then the next part was to get in. And I'm kind of choked we didn't get in. Was to play in that playoff weekend. I think would have been pretty cool. But that's what happens. I mean, you're not going to win all the time. You're going to have teams come back and beat you. As long as it was those assholes, I wish it was another team. But but that happens. I mean, it happens. It would have been neat to play in that weekend. But to win that other championship, I think was just as good or better than winning both of those domestic titles.
And speaking of the playoffs against Sheffield, I'm not going to talk about the second leg because that was what it was. But you played a very big role in that first leg in one incident that anytime it gets tweeted out, anytime it gets mentioned, it goes everywhere.
Yeah.
We just scored the second goal. Then Fitzy wants nothing more than to fight you. And you keep saying that. Can you just talk me through the whole thing?
He didn't want to fight me all year. And you know what? I don't chase. If they don't want to fight, I don't chase guys, right? I've never done that. I've never chased anybody to fight them. Fitzy was a long-time guy in the American League, tough guy, played in the UK a long time. He did his role very well. I have respect for anybody that has done that role for as long as, and it doesn't matter what league you play in because I know how hard it is to do that. But he didn't want to fight me all year, which is cool, man, because I don't chase guys. I don't give a fuck. You don't want to go, I don't care. But then it was kind of funny because in games like that, especially in games like that are as important as that, you're trying to suck a guy in for a penalty more than anything, right? And I was kind of halfway through a shift, and he came flying down the boards and was like, punch me in the head, let's go. And I kept my arms down because I'm like, this guy's going to take a stupid penalty, and we can end up scoring a goal that could possibly, because it's that aggregate stuff, right? We don't do that over here. We could possibly score a goal here that could be a deciding goal if I suck this guy in. And I ended up scoring on the play, but you know, I was going down, and I never fist pumped after goals and stuff. I never really scored that much to do that stuff. So my cellies are very, very, you know, I don't really have them because I don't score. And I go down on one knee to start fist pumping. I get a bit of a speed wobble going, and I think I almost like blew my ACL out. I wanted to take my glove off and give those asshole Sheffield fans a finger, but then I'm like, oh, I'd probably get kicked out in a penalty, so I just kind of put my hands up in front of them. But the speed wobble, man, like even Brownie said, he goes, I thought you tore your ACL on that. Yeah.
You made a habit of scoring against Sheffield in Nottingham as well. And they were all usually quite nice goals where you fake out Mustakov, you go around him, and you just slide the puck in.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I did. I think the majority of my goals, like in the domestic leagues, were against Sheffield. I think I scored a couple in their rank, maybe 3 or 4 in ours. But you know what, that goalie they had, he was a good goalie. They should never have let that guy go. I don't know how they let that guy go. I thought he was arguably the best goalie in that league. And I think they should have kept that guy. I don't know. You know, it's obviously there's different reasons why guys leave and whatnot, but he was a good goalie. I thought he was one of the best in the league, that guy.
He was huge though, wasn't he? Like he's a big guy to get around.
Big goalie, good, athletic, big. He can move, you know. And I think I did not look at the stats, but I would assume he would have had the best stats in the league.
And it's
just like playing against him.
Like you had a pretty special goalie on your team as well. I know he let that goal in against the Spanish side, but Mika,
ever since the Spanish goal, Mika has been like, but Mika was good too.
And then Henry came in as well.
If Mika didn't let that goal in against Haka, maybe I'd look at him in a different light. But you know, he was great. You know, I think he got goalie of the tournament in a couple of those tournaments that we played in. You know, big part of our team, big reason why we did win those tournaments. You know, so, you know, we had a top guy too, which is why I think we did so well, minus the Haka goal, but we'll leave that alone.
And Mika's one of the from what I've heard about him, he's like one of the most, when it's game day, he's one of the most intense characters you can come across.
Yeah, I mean, prepared well. You know, goalies are like that. They're a little bit goofy, you know, with their preparation and what they do and how they warm up. You know, Henry was just smiling all the time. You know, he bummed a chew off everybody, and that's all he did. Terrible breath. I mean, that's one thing I wish I could have got him was like I don't know, maybe about 100 liters of mouthwash for the season. But a goofy bastard, funny, you know, happy-go-lucky. And he was a big part of our team too. He came in, played well. You know, I think we had a pretty good goalie tandem.
Do you remember when he nearly started that riot in Coventry?
Oh, I couldn't, man. He almost started a full-on bench-clearing brawl in the handshake. Before the handshakes, I'm like, here we go. This is going to be a shit show getting out of this rink. We're all going to kill each other, and then we're going to have to fight half the fans getting out of here. But yeah, that was now that you mentioned that, I forgot about that. Because even me and Farms were together, and he's like, "Big boy, we're gonna be fighting our way out of this rink." I'm like, "What?" I already have my gloves around my fingertips because I'm like, I'm gonna have to go after Klotz here because if he's coming for me because we'll be able to kill about 5-6 guys each on each other's teams. So, you know, but yeah, now that you mentioned that, I remember that, man. I think he was just so happy because he played so well and he had a lot of saves in that game. It might have been his first win. You know, fist pumping in front of their team, and me and Farms were just like, oh God, here, and it was, yeah.
You've got all the Panthers fans in Coventry, just, Henry, and that's just egging him on even more and more.
Just got him right fired up. Oh yeah.
I was like, there was a guy who you didn't play with in Nottingham, but I know he's a former teammate of yours because he's been on here and he's told me a funny story about you. But I want to know your best David Ling story.
Oh, Linger, he's awesome. we played in Providence together. I would say, so 2010, 10 years ago, we played in Providence together. Linger came back from Russia. He's playing in Russia. And, you know, it was literally like the first 2 weeks I was there because I was in Boston for about a month and a half, got sent down, and Linger got on the team like maybe that same week. Play goes up the ice. I'll never forget, we're playing against Portland. Linger full-on suckers their goalie. The guy's out cold, half dead. And then he's skating to the bench like this, and the refs didn't see it. He's like, pointing out the goalie. He's like, yeah. But you know what? He now is saying that. He is one of the funniest guys I've played with. The one-liners, all that stuff. But, you know, for playing pro as long as he did, I can't believe he still wears a diaper every day. It's crazy. You know, he's such a little guy, and he's still in diapers. I just can't believe it. But, you know, teach their own.
When I was speaking to him, when he said about you, he says he used to come up to you every day and he just wave his hand in front of your face as you were sat in the locker room. You sit there with your headphones in, you're listening to your music, and he'd just come up to you and just wave his hand.
Oh, yeah, all the time. He's got his no teeth in his He's just smiling. He's got no teeth, coffee, and chew everywhere.
One of the things you always hear is that no one has ever played with a guy like him before. He is just his own unique.
Oh, he's a special person.
I can imagine the trouble he'd have gotten if he played with you in Nottingham.
Special. I wish I could have played with him there. He was still playing. Like he was still, I think he was playing in the East Coast League. Like he could have came. I mean, he's got family and all that, you know, other stuff going on over here. But he, at that age, like he could still play. Creative playmaker. He would have fit in perfect with the group of guys we had. We all might have all been in jail by Christmas, but it would have been a lot of fun.
Let's say, how did you find Corey and Strax as a coaching tandem?
It was great. I mean, Strax, great guy. You know, got along really well with everybody. Corey obviously did what he did over there as a player and a coach. And, yeah, you know, the tandem was good. And I know those guys are like one of the boys too, right? You can hang out and talk to them. The culture is a little bit different over there where, you know, over here, you're not going to walk in, hey, what's up, bro? And stuff like that to the coaches over here. You kind of hide from them, right? You know, they were like, just like one of the boys. They both played in that league a long time. They've been over there a long time. And, you know, we had a lot of fun that year. They were part of it.
Now, when you look back at your time in Nottingham, if we take the Continental Cup out of the equation, is there a moment, a fight, a goal that stands out as a particular memory?
You know what? No, just having the chance to play there, man. And the part I did love the most is the passionate fans. To be honest, they're great. You know, I have a bunch of them still that follow me on social media. They love when I rip those assholes in Sheffield. They love it. And that's why I do it, right? The fans, they still love it. I would say that would have been the highlight. Having the chance to play in front of that fan base, a fan base I had no clue about, no clue what I was going into, no clue about anything over there. And to see how well they support that team, and that team is where they are because of that fan base. To be a part of it, to still be a part of it, to rip those assholes all the time in Sheffield because they're arguably some of the ugliest people I've ever seen in my life. I think when this COVID thing is done, because the fans are probably going to have to wear face masks at the rink, I think Sheffield fans have to wear paper bags over their heads because they're arguably the ugliest people I have ever seen in sports. But I still say we because I consider myself a part of that fan base, have the best fans in the UK for sure.
So you're not going to be buying one of those Steelers bed sets anytime soon?
Yeah. Yeah.
That one really got everyone going.
Oh yeah. I love it. And they're so easy to bug. Like you throw out one thing and then it's just all day long. I'll say something and weeks later they're still going at me. It's amazing. I love it. It's so much fun.
It is very, very easy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things you were synonymous with over here was your tinted visor. Where did that come from?
You know what? Just because of the concussion issues, had a couple bad concussions over the last, a couple of years. It really dims the lighting, the bright lighting in the rinks. some of the rink lighting too. I didn't win the Continental Cup, but just the real bright lights. And there are players in the past, and that's where I kind of got it from. Players that have had head injury, that have played in the NHL and in the American League, wore tinted visors because of that reason. The bright lights in your face all game long. The focus is better. Obviously, the risk of any kind of headache or setback with post-concussion syndrome. Did I lose you? Sorry.
Okay.
Anything with post-concussion syndrome, the bright lights, pictures, all that stuff in your face all game, it really dimmed the lights for me. That's why I wore it. It wasn't like a style thing or anything like that. You know, I had a real bad concussion the year before. I missed about 2.5 months. So I figure, you know, and I only played maybe a handful of games when I came back. And I figure, you know what, next year I'll try and see if I like it, what players have done over here with taking that real bright stuff out of your face. And it was good. It was fine. Kind of looked cool too.
That's what I'm saying. You say it wasn't a style thing, but it did look badass.
Yeah, it did. And I was one of the only guys to wear it. And I wasn't wearing it for a style thing, even though it did kind of look cool. I was the only guy in the league that wore it. And I wasn't wearing it to be like this big hero kind of cool guy, hot shot, but it was more or less to keep the real brightness out of my eyes and my face.
And I think that when I was talking to Jeff, he mentioned you came over with a pair of white skates as well.
Yeah, I wore the whites for about 10 years. Started wearing them in like 2009. It was kind of cool because I wore them. There's only like, and all the other guys in the NHL that wore them were like good players, like Matt Duchene and you know, I got to think Ryan Smith, and there was only like a handful of guys. And Ryan Smith, when he played in Edmonton and Calgary, like in Calgary, and I'd always line up beside him. He's a really good dude. Obviously, one of the best Oilers in the last 20 years to play in that franchise. I'd always line up beside him and go, "You're not tough enough to wear those white skates, boy," and he'd always laugh. Yeah.
And then say there was when I was out there with Jeff on here, he talked about a very specific moment that happened in Edinburgh, and you and him made a very interesting discovery up in Edinburgh. I wonder if you could elaborate your side of the story on this one.
So we get into Edinburgh and we get into the room there, and half the guys basically have to get, they called it chokey. They got to get dressed in basically a mold infested closet. We go into the main room, and I'm getting ready. I'm pulling stuff out of my bag right by the shower. Well, doesn't this guy walk out just buck ass naked? No, he had a skullet, so it's like a bald mullet. He bent over in front of the boys, and he had the most gorgeous set of nuts I have ever seen. And he bent over. I'm like, would you? I go, look at the gorgeous set of nuts on that man. And like the boys like cried. Like we cried. And it was like a thing where like, look, because I said, look at this fucking guy. The gorgeous set of nuts on that man. He got on, he put the old banana hammock underwear on and just kind of put his gear on and waltzed out of the room. But like we cried, like we talked about that. And that was like the second half of the year. And the boys of Mac, like Logan McMillan, loved it, and we still talk about it. Like we were in, like we could barely get ready for the game. We were laughing that hard. It was like laughing for an hour over it. It was hilarious. Yeah.
Oh dear, Jeff did not go into that much detail.
No, that's the exact story. But man, was that funny. Just bent over right in front of the boys, balls hanging. I'm like, look at the gorgeous set of nuts on him, boys. And like crying, like tears. We were going out for warm-up and we were crying still. Yeah.
And then to put you on the spot a little bit, are there any other stories that stand out from your time in Nottingham that make you laugh almost like that, but not to that extent?
Well, you get to spend 8 months with the loon, Larry Lawrence. There's a story every day. He is one of the biggest beauties I have ever met in my life. But yeah, I mean, there were stories all year. That one in Edinburgh was like super funny. we were when we were in Hackett, because they have like that siesta shit, right?
Yes.
So we take the bus there. All of a sudden, we pull off in this town. It's got one street. And the bus driver takes off, right? Goes in and orders a meal. And we got another 2.5 hours of the trip. Those guys don't speak English. There's some old dude that's traveling with them. We thought it was the bus driver, and we are just carving this guy, right? And he's walking across the street, smoking a dart, and we're like, hey, fuck wheels, let's go, get in the bus. The guy can't speak a lick of English, and we ripped on this guy. Corey's yelling at him, and he's not even the bus driver. And we were like ripping him. And then, you know, the guy had whatever, his hour and a half, 2 hour. We were there for a while, got in because I think that's their culture and rules over there, got in the bus. And so it was just kind of funny stuff like that all year. I actually, the boys just sent it to me in the group text. I think we were going to Belfast, and, you know, I threw my bag in the security tray and get to the end, and my bag goes across the thing. I'm like, what the hell? There's nothing in there. And the security guard pulls in. He's like, can you explain this, mate? And why do you have a serrated knife in your bag? Well, Gabe put a steak knife in my bag because Gabe was only like 1.5 years or not even 2 years old, and put a steak knife in my bag. And the boys were like crying, and they're like, Big Earn, first time traveling. I thought literally I wasn't going to be allowed on the plane because the security guy's holding it like this, and it's a big steak knife. I'm like, oh man, like, how am I going to, is he really going to believe me that a 2-year-old put it in my bag? But Gabe put a steak knife in my bag. And the boys were crying. Obviously, all the guys are taking pictures of the tray and that. But, you know, it was a funny year, man. It was a funny year, like all year, with stuff like that. Yeah.
You can tell how much Nottingham meant to you. Like you say, you're still active with it on social media. And I think when you first left, I think Gabe still had jerseys and things. You take pictures of him at rinks, he'd still be in his Panthers jerseys and things.
Yeah, he wore his. He was going to wear it. I took him training here because my buddies opened up a training center here where they have a skating treadmill where you can skate and work on your form. He's a skating coach. And Gabe went on it for the first time in his Panthers jersey. He keeps it in his bag because he still wears it. And he wanted to wear it because my buddy, the hockey school he goes to, was like a camo jersey of what they were. I'm like, Gabe, do you want to wear a Nottingham jersey? But he has a Nottingham jersey in his bag that he wears over here still. He will wear at the outdoor rinks here and stuff. So still have all the shirts and all that stuff. I got some stuff in my room. I got my jerseys. I got stuff we grabbed for Gabe hanging in his room. I mean, it's a big part of our life, and we support that team. We'll always support that team. And just looking forward to getting to come back. He's at an age now where we can come back and come over for a week and go to a couple games, and he can actually remember and see where he got to watch me play. Yeah.
Then with all the jerseys and stuff, like I say, the guy that I've neglected to mention up to this point, and he'll kill me if I don't because he likes the attention, is Goody. He really looks after that locker room, doesn't he? He's like the dad.
He does. I mean, those guys, the guys that are in that role, no matter what league, the team runs because of guys like that. You know, they get the gear, they order the gear, your skates are ready, your gear's ready, they repair your gear, your sticks are ready, your sticks are ordered. They pack up all the stuff. You get to the rink, your stuff's in order. When you're playing in those tournaments, you're playing all the time. Jerseys are ready, skates are sharp. They have all the equipment to do all the repairs. You know, and those guys, teams run because of people like that. And he's a Newcastle fan, and he's just as painful as the others.
At least he didn't get his takeover.
Yeah, they're going to be the next Man City. At least they have a legit fan base other than Man City, who are very fair weather loser fans like Sheffield. At least Newcastle has a legit fan base. But yeah, it's going to be painful listening to him too go on about them. Between him, Clarkey, and Farms, God, painful. But Goody, good man, big part of that team. He's been there forever. Big part of the success. Guys love him. One of the boys comes out, goes to the bars, drinks, have beer with the boys, you know, on the road, and you know, very important member of that organization.
And then when that year in Nottingham took place, did you know that was going to be your last year as a professional?
Kinda. I signed a 2-year deal. I didn't know. But at the end of the year when I came back, and it's not, I didn't want to play, but, I've never questioned in my career of getting hurt. And, I'm like, if I go back one more year, I don't have any injuries. What if I have a bad fall in a game and break my leg or hurt my back or hurt my neck or hurt my shoulder? I'm like, I'm 35. I don't have any ailments right now that are holding me back. Like, I have friends and I know of guys that have played over here for a long time. These guys struggled to get out of bed in the morning, and I didn't have that. And I'm like, to go play another 50 games and, maybe play in a European Cup tournament, 60 games tops, is it really worth it to have a bad injury and maybe handicap some of my life? So I've never questioned that playing before, but once those questions start coming in my life, is it really worth it to go back and play? So that's why I quit. I didn't want to get hurt. And I was content with the career that I had, where my family was. I had to lug them around for a fair portion of my career, city to city, traveling, moving, packing up, getting connected with people, getting traded, getting sent down, moving back home for 2 months, moving again. It's hard on them, man. And, I was just content where I was at my career, and I felt it was a good time to end it. First of all, with, winning that championship, the guys that I got to play with, how much fun I had. I felt like a kid again. I felt it was the right time to call it.
I think you're still involved with the game today, though, with your role with Calgary.
I am, yeah. So, coming out of Nottingham and getting a job right back in the NHL, working player development in Calgary. I'm going into my 4th season with the Flames, and having an impact here with our young players, working with our prospects, draft picks. I'm around the big team all the time. So to be fortunate enough to come back and get a job in the top league again, having an impact, playing in a bit of a lifestyle role, player development role with our young guys, getting, been going to 4 years now, but coming into, learning and being in pro scout meetings and management meetings and amateur scout meetings, how to do player reports and I don't know, the scouting side, seeing a game from a different angle. The management team and our pro scouts and our directors were very, very helpful in the early days of teaching me how to write reports and how to watch a game, how to see it from a different view. The travel, connecting with our players, connecting with our draft picks, making them feel important, making them feel comfortable. We've kind of set a different culture here in Calgary where we've mental health, addiction, whatever. We have an open door policy here. We've created a culture where it has been a safe place for our players to come to the rink. And it's taken some time, but our players know, and it doesn't matter if you're a draft pick or you're Johnny Gaudreau, that you're in a safe environment. We will accept you forever who you are. And if you are struggling, we're going to have the resources to help you, and we're not going to use it against you. And we've created a pretty neat and cool culture here, and that all comes from our GM. Forward-thinking guy, works his ass off. Players respect him. Players love him. As staff, we work our asses off for him. And he's created a culture here that hopefully other teams in the league that can follow.
Well, that's any professional sport league is a copycat league, isn't it? Once one team sees something working, it moves to the next one and the next one and the next one. So, and it's really cool for you to be on the trend-setting side of that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's great. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. Obviously this year being a little different with our league getting shut down, and I think, the beginning of mid-March or whenever it was. Staying in contact with our guys and, doing Zoom meetings and FaceTime and calls. And, we can see the little bit of change in their voices when they were allowed to work out and train and skate with their buddies. Obviously our guys are playing now, but our prospects and our younger guys aren't, because those leagues, I don't think will be going anytime soon. With the NHL getting the restart a couple, months ago or whatever, and seeing those guys play for a championship. And I've talked to a handful of guys in our team, and I asked them, how's it playing in front of no fans? They said they don't even notice the difference because of the intensity, the preparation it takes to play. They're doing some pretty cool stuff in those games. They're with those big jumbotrons. They're playing the loud fan music. They're putting some cool stuff up in chirps and all the one-liners and stuff. And I asked a couple of our guys, and they said, to be honest, they're so focused on the game that they're not even paying attention to the no fans in the stands. So I think the NHL has done a hell of a job to create an atmosphere for those players to come into the rink and not really – obviously there's going to be a difference, but not have that being a big factor of them not playing in front of any fans. Yeah.
Because the NHL gets a lot of shots thrown at it for not being an innovative league, and this has kind of forced them to be that, and they've shown that they can be innovative when put into that position.
And I think they've done a great job of screening and testing and keeping our players safe and creating these bubbles and these environments where the guys can come in and play. Nobody's been infected. They've created a safe environment for the players to come in and just worry about playing hockey, worry about hanging with their buddies at the hotel. They've done a great job, and I think they're the only league that has done it that's been safe so far. And I think, you know, they've done a hell of a job of what they've done. Yeah.
And then to bring this full circle, because I can't thank you enough for all the time you've given me for this. There's always going to be a part of Brian McGrattan in Nottingham, isn't there?
Always, man. Always. And maybe Gabe will get to wear the jersey someday.
The next number 13.
Yeah, number 13. That's why I wore it, because it's his birthday.
Gabe's
birthday, 13th. Yeah. You know, I was number 16 for 11, and I don't want to come over and take numbers off guys and do that. So
you could have fought Brownie for it.
Even though it was Brownie and I should have taken his number off, but no, I didn't really care. And I'm like, you know what, 13's open, and that's Gabe. Gabe's birthday is April 13th, so I'm like, I'll wear 13 for Gabe. Yeah, so they can keep that jersey for him.
And you've played in some really cool arenas and things. Like you played in Nashville as a Predator. You've played in Boston, Calgary. I'm not going to say that Nottingham ranks above those, but where would you put Nottingham on the scale of playing in front of a home crowd?
Great. Other than the NHL rinks, I got to play in San Diego the year before I came to Nottingham. That's another place. I'm like, hey, how good's the hockey going to be here? And our rink, you know, it held 14. It was a big rink, held 14,000, but they would tarp off the top. And I think we were the second highest average in the league. We averaged just under 10,000 people a game. It was deadly playing there. You know, for not an NHL rink, it was right at the top for me. 100%.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time, and this has been brilliant.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me, and anytime you need me, we'll chat.